These are the characters. Lisa, the main character and the protagonist of the story. Meg, Lisa's younger sister. Tita Loleng, Lisa's aunt, the one who she assists with while cooking sinigang. Lisa's father and mother. Sylvia, the antagonist and the mistress of Lisa's father. Lem, Lisa's stepbrother and the one who died of cancer.
The story Sinigang happened in Liza's home, where she and her Tita Loleng is preparing sinigang for the family dinner, because it's her father's favorite dish too. That's why they cook it.
The story started with Lisa and Tita Loleng preparing sinigang for their upcoming dinner. Lisa was tasked by her aunt just for today because she's not the preferred one. It was her younger sister Meg. During their preparation, out of Tita Loleng's curiosity, Lisa was asked about the funeral of her younger brother Lem. Lisa continued to pick out the tomatoes for the sinigang that they will have for dinner.
Nothing much.
Lisa answered,
We did what people usually do during funerals.
while putting the tomatoes in the small planggana and carried them to the sink.
Did you meet her?
Tita Loleng added.
While cooking, her Auntie Loleng continues to interrogate her about the funeral. But, considering the attitude of her auntie, she chose to go with the flow and appease her by answering her questions. Lisa recalled the memory of that day as she attended the funeral of Lem, who died of cancer.
Are you Lisa? A woman beside me suddenly asked. I am Sylvia,
Said the voice. There, she met the mistress of her father and observed her. In Lisa's mind, her mother is prettier than the woman standing in front of her, wondering why her father still managed to find another woman besides her mother. Sylvia abruptly snatched Lisa's hand from its resting place on the sofa arm and suddenly knelt in front of her.
Everyone makes mistakes, Lisa.
She asked for forgiveness, but Lisa's face remained deadpan as she glanced down at her. She nodded and appeared to understand in order for Sylvia to release her hand. She let go, seemingly convinced, and hugged her tightly, much to her surprise. As a terrible mix of strong perfume and sweat assaulted her, Lisa's nose furrowed. She didn't move away even though she wanted to yell at her to let go.
They go their separate ways as Lisa looks at Lem. Staring at the face of her stepbrother in the casket, she realized that her father looked like Lem, unlike her who had taken after her mother. Despite sensing his eyes burning her back, she refused to look at him. She was unwilling to go to this funeral, but her mother insisted due to her father's request. Her father couldn't hold back anymore and finally approached her.
I'm glad you came.
He said. Lisa's thoughts were interrupted by Tita Loleng's questions. Did you cry? Lisa shook her head as she replied no. Father Marius said we shouldn't feel sad because Lem is assured of going to a better place because he was such a good child. Lisa thinks that is good because, unlike her, whom he always called Sinvergüenza, the shameless daughter. Why? Lisa asked. He met Lisa's eyes but couldn't answer her. Lisa breathed a sigh of relief because the questions had stopped for now. She prepared all the ingredients that will be added to the pot later. A few minutes later, the sound of constantly popping bubbles signaled that it was time to add the powdered tamarind mix. Lisa poured in the entire packet and mixed it thoroughly. Then, she took a fistful of vegetables and added them to the saucepan one at a time. As she did so, she remembered how she and her two sisters had dropped flower petals into the freshly dug rib, fistful by fistful, as Lem's casket was being lowered into it. While her father was crying beside her, Lisa wondered if her father would react the same way if she was the one being buried. I glanced up at him and was surprised to find that he was looking at me. His hand, heavy with sadness, fell on my shoulder.
I'm Sorry.
he had told me. The sinigang would be served later during dinner. I pictured myself seated in my usual place beside my father, who is at the head of the table. He would tell Mom about this day, and then he would ask each of us about our own. I would answer, not in the animated way I would have done when I was still young and his pet, but politely and without any rancor. Then, he would compliment me on the way I had cooked his favorite dish, and I would give him a smile that would never quite show, not even in my eyes.
Man versus man. The conflict is between Lisa and her father. Lisa's father is a paramour, which is Sylvia, the one visited Lim's funeral and kneeled in front of Lisa. Her father's action roughly shapes their bonding together, resulting to an emotional dispute. The conflict is specified into relationship and value conflict. There's a relationship conflict because of emotional barrier between them, and there's value conflict because of the fact that Lisa's father once ignored the importance of a real family and chose to have a mistress.
The theme of the story, Sinigang, could be all of us are prone to do mistakes in life, but in the end, we could ask for forgiveness and accept our errors. Based on the story, the main character named Lisa dealt an issue to his father that have an affair to another woman and her stepbrother who died because of cancer. After all, she forgave them both. The point of view is first person. The author narrates herself to the main character, Lisa, using the pronoun I.